Good morning, Ireland. It is Thursday, April 25th. This is day 33. I'm a couple of hours, maybe 2.5 hours into my day. Just stopped for a break. Stayed in a station hostel last night. It was okay. It's basically like a pub that has a hostel facility at it. And they do food and they have a little resupply shop and stuff. And it was okay. So today I'm planning on doing something like 18 miles, getting to a shelter called Moorland Gap Shelter. So my average, if I'm to get to Damascus, when I said my average needs to be something like 17 per day from here on. So we'll see how I do against that. It's actually starting to rain. There was rain forecast for later on today, much later on, not now. So it's a bit of a nuisance. Hopefully it's just a passing shower. Anything to say? Not really. Everything's going pretty well. This bite on my foot swelled my ankle up a bit, but it's not quite as bad today as it was yesterday. It was quite painful yesterday. There you go. Getting boring. Talk to you soon. Bye. This is Mountaineer Falls. Good morning, Ireland. It is April 26th. Happy birthday, Dad. Sorry I can't be there to do something nice with you, but maybe when I get back. So, this is day 34. I'm planning on getting to a shelter called, I think it's called something like Vandebilta, something like that. I think it's that one. But it's another longish day. Oh, sorry, just spotted something. This looks cool. Big pond. Okay. Yeah. Bet there's nice catfish or something in there. Cool. Yeah, everything's going pretty well. My leg is sort of eased off a bit. So it's moved a bit better today. This morning's there's another load of rain. This morning was very wet. As soon as I left the shelter, it started raining. I think it's supposed to ease off as the day progresses. Last night was alright. It was extremely windy. It didn't help. I got my bloody bear bag stuck up a tree. So I just tied it off last night, and then this morning just got a bit brutal with it to get it down, so thankfully I got it down. Heading down towards a town called, I think it's called Hampton in Tennessee. Did I mention, I don't think I mentioned this, but with regard to the various states we passed through, you might have noticed that we were switching between North Carolina and Tennessee quite a lot. That's because the Appalachian Trail actually travels along the border between those two states for quite a long time. I mean, it could be a couple of 100 miles. But we finally left North Carolina behind yesterday or the day before. So we are properly in Tennessee for a wee while, I think for another, I don't know, 50 or 60 miles. And then we get into Virginia. Looking forward to that. The hiking in Virginia is supposed to be a little easier, a little faster. So I do have some miles to make up. I am trying to do those averages now regardless, but I believe once I hit Southern Virginia, it is possible to do the 20s and the 20 plus days. So there you go. Hopefully everybody's doing okay. Hopefully you're not missing me too much. And I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Good morning, Ireland. It is Saturday, April 27th. That makes this day 35. And what an interesting day it is. Why, you might ask? Well, so just to give a bit of background, I have been trying to make it to Petersburg, which is at mile 635, for the 8th of May, because my beloved wife is going to be there on the 8th of May, at which point I'm going to take 4 days off and spend some time with my wife, which I just cannot wait for. However, I've been finding the mileage kind of tough, and not just, from a fitness point of view, but I've had the storms working against me. I've had, the whole bear canister issue working against me, and I've been battling to sort of make it up. So as of a few days ago, I needed to deal with something like 17 miles a day for 14 days, of which there are now today and 11 more left. So 17 mile per day average to get to Petersburg. That's average, so no days off, no Neros, no zeros. So yesterday another storm passed. I was actually having quite a wet morning. Got to a point in an area called Pond Wilderness, suddenly had coverage on my phone, had a chat with Emily, and as I went to leave the shelter, all hell broke loose. And there was thunder and lightning, there was confusing way markers, so it was even difficult to figure out which way to go, etc, etc. It ended up the intended 19 miles that I wanted to do yesterday became something like 15. And I got to a hostel called Boots Off, which is pretty cool. So, what am I going to do? Well, 2 new terms that I'm going to tell you about, and then I'm going to do some general classroom about hiking nonsense with you, just to explain how things have sort of worked in my favor. So, just to get one term out of the way. So I was talking to you before about nobos, which are northbounders, sobos, which are southbounders. There's another term called flip-flopping. Flip-floppers don't do the trail solidly in one direction. So they don't go to Georgia and walk all the way to Maine like northbounders do, or go to Maine and walk all the way to Georgia like southbounders do. They will do, for example, they'll start in the middle and they'll walk south. They'll get to Georgia and then they'll get transported back to the middle again or back to the north, and they'll either walk back to the middle or walk from the middle up north, whichever works for them. And an example of that was the guy I wasn't walking with him, but bumped into him a few times. Eagle, he's an Eagle Scout, and because he can get 2 months of work in the summer, he's doing the southern section up to Harper's Ferry, which is the accepted halfway point. It's not mathematically halfway, but it's approximately. He's then taken 2 months off. He's then going up to Maine and he's walking back to Harper's Ferry. And that works for him. That makes him a flip-flopper. So that's that. And then there's sort of middling flip-floppers who will do little sections in different directions for whatever reason. So the other one, the other term, is slack packing. Now, basically what slack packing is where somebody volunteers or provides the service to transport your rucksack for you. See my little pack? See my tiny little pack? So the hostel, it turns out, have this 2-section flip-flopping service. So the hostel is 42 miles from Damascus, which was going to be my Sunday night target, but that was going to be very, very difficult, bordering on probably not going to happen level of difficulty. So what they've done is they allow me to leave my pack at the hostel. They have driven me and many other people to 21 miles on the trail to a road called TN91. We get out and we walk back to the hostel. So I'm now heading south instead of north. So I'm doing a 21-mile slack pack, because I've got a very small pack, back to the hostel. So the good thing is I don't have to carry that big pack. My joints get a break. Okay, I'm going to do 21 miles if you call that getting a break, but I don't have that extra 15 kilos or whatever on my back. All I have is a couple of bottles of water, some snacks, wet gear, and my puffy jacket. So then I then get to spend another night at the hostel. I get a bunk, which is great. It's all in the price. And then tomorrow, what they do is, it gets even better. They take me and my pack back to this TN91 again. I get out of the truck. My pack doesn't. I then walk to Damascus, so I'm going north again for the next 21 miles without my big pack. And they transport my pack to Damascus. They have a holding point in Damascus that they use for holding rucksacks. So when I get to Damascus, I'm reunited with my pack, which will be Sunday evening, and I'm back on track. Whippy-doo. So, based on that, I then need to average only 16.5 miles for 10 days. I will be 165 miles away from where I want to meet Emily. In reality, I don't really need to make it there. Emily is hiring a car, so she can pick me up from a few different points. But in my mind, I really want to achieve that, because it's the first sort of, I mean, they say don't have targets like that, but it is the first target that I set myself. And it would just be a bit of a shame if I don't achieve it. So I'm pretty confident that I can achieve it by using this 2-day backpacking or slack packing service. So there you go. Talk to you in a second. So, I don't know why, but today for some reason I feel the need to explain a general thing about hiking. So, hopefully 1 or 2 of you or 10 of you or 20 of you might think, do you know what, I'm going to give this a go. I like this. This looks great. Whitey seems to enjoy it. I might enjoy it too. But as I've said before, it's a bit of a love it or hate it thing. But more importantly, there's a couple of little points I want to make about it. So those of you who like walking, you might walk to school, you might walk to work, you might walk your dog, you might like to walk around your local park, whatever. When you venture into what you would call hiking, i.e. putting a little backpack on your back, getting into the hills, climbing a few mountains, you know, having your lunch outside, maybe cooking outside. It's a very, very different thing. It's much tougher on your legs, your knees, your ankles, your back, your hips. It's a different kettle of fish altogether. You're walking on slippery, hard, or soft ground. It's uneven, and I would just say, be prepared and be careful. Do not go into the hills in denim. Do not go into the hills in cotton. There's a term in hiking which is cotton kills. Might expand on that another time, but just don't do it, okay? Man-made fibers are much better, polyesters and what have you. So, I'm saying do it, but just make sure your expectations are correct. It is not the same as walking on your local streets, so please be careful if you're going to do it. So I would then go on to make another point. So let's say you get into hiking and you think, I love this. You know, I can do a 5-hour, 6-hour, 8-hour day hike. Love it. I'm going to start sleeping out in the hills. I'm going to go and do multi-day walks. I would make the same statement again. It's again a very different prospect to going on a day hike. You're carrying more. You're now sleeping in a somewhat alien environment. You've got to deal with the weather overnight. You've got to wake up in the hills. You've got to get going again, etc. Now that might sound exciting, and it kind of is, but it's in terms of the impact on your body and how tiring that whole prospect is. It's a different kettle of fish to just going into the hills for 6 or 7 hours. So again, I would say be careful of that, but do it. It's fantastic. And then I would go on to make another point. So let's say you've done that and you love it, you like it, and you think, I'm going to do what Whitey did. I'm going to do a through hike. Now, a very, very different prospect again. When you do a through hike, i.e. multi-month trip like this, you are just shifting your whole life onto a trail, okay? And you might think, you know, you've got all the equipment from your multi-day walking. No. Surprisingly, when you do a really long trek like this, you carry even less equipment, far less equipment, and the equipment itself is structured differently. It's all ultralight. It has to be ultralight because of the continued long-term impact on your joints for months and months. That's why there's so much emphasis on getting your pack weight down when you go through hiking. So very different. There's 4 very different, and it's all walking, I know that, but walking the streets is very different to hiking, day hiking. Day hiking is very different to multi-day hiking, and multi-day hiking is very different to what's known as through hiking. It's 4 different things, and you might think, yeah, we know that, Jimbo, but I feel better now that I've got the words out. I don't want anyone to hurt themselves. I don't want anyone to be disillusioned. There are 4 different things, and I would say progress through them in that order if you want to do it. But please do it. Give it a go. Hopefully you enjoy it. I've always loved it. There have been times when it's been miserable and tough and you're wondering, what the hell am I doing here? And then you get home and you cannot wait to get out again the next weekend. It's a bizarre thing, but it is awesome. And I just thoroughly recommend it. But just be as aware of what's ahead of you as you can. And go for it. Live it. Good luck, folks. Happy trails. And here's a great bunkhouse. Wait for it. I'm the green one. Cool, eh? So good morning, Ireland. It is April 28th. This is day 36. I am at mile 450-ish. Started today about 15-20 minutes ago. This is the second day of my slack pack. So I've got my big pack, but it's practically empty. It doesn't look empty because I've got my puffy jacket in it. So all of my stuff from inside my pack is being driven to Damascus. So I have another 21-mile walk today, which is pretty much exactly what I did yesterday. I think today might be 22. It was great. It was a different feeling. My feet were still tired when I got back to the hostel last night, but my body was not tired at all, which was nice. Still kind of suffering with this spider bite thing, if that's even what it is. So I believe there's a very good clinic in Marion, which is after today. It's another 2 or 3 days away. So if it's still bothering me, then I'm going to get it checked out there, just to be sure. I was chatting with a guy yesterday, and he was really putting the shits up me because he was talking about these things called brown recluse spiders that are highly venomous. They're typically those kind of spiders that hide in your boots and you don't tap your boots out, and they get kind of angry and bite your feet. And he was talking about people that have had amputations and all kinds of stuff. So holy crap, I don't want that, obviously. So today I will cross into my fourth state, being Virginia, at about I think it's 3 or 4 miles short of Damascus. So that'll be mile 466, 467, something like that. So hopefully I spot the state line, the little border sign. So that'll be cool. So we've done with Georgia, done with North Carolina, and today we'll be finished with Tennessee. And we enter Southern Virginia, which would be great. 4 states. Okay, catch you later. So I thought, as I'm walking along a very safe piece of track, I'd deal with a few questions. Sorry, it's just suddenly got very windy. Hopefully you can hear me. Yeah, a couple of questions and comments. And funny enough, I got a comment from Mark that quite often when I'm in the windy areas or right at the top of mountains, that you can't hear me speak. There's not a whole heap I can do about that. I do try to kind of shield the microphone part of my phone and try to speak up, but sorry if you've missed some of the dialogue. I'm sure it was riveting and enlightening. So anyway, okay. So one little follow-up comment as well, which originated with Mark as well, which was to do with foraging. So one subscriber from the locality from here goes by the name of Two Lasses, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, mentioned that there are wild onions called, they're known as ramps, that can be eaten. I have seen these, and one guy in particular was eating them and offered one to me. So I declined because there's not a lot of calorific value, and I really don't want to take the chance that it'll be something that will disagree with me. So I'm trying to be sort of that careful. But yes, I had heard of ramps, but thanks for reminding me of it. The other comment you made was about blueberries. I think it was you that mentioned the blueberries. So yeah, there will be a big crop of blueberries on the way, and it's I think you're generally in competition with the bear population to get your hands on some of those, and obviously the birds. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing those coming out. So thanks for that comment. So a couple of new questions. Brian and Lauren, delighted that you're keeping in touch. You've been in touch from the start. Lauren, I'm delighted to hear you're doing well. Keep it up. I've never met you, but Ryan speaks highly of you, so delighted you're enjoying these. So you asked a brilliant question actually, and it was to do with loneliness. So I'm going to kind of answer it in two parts. First part is sort of me generally, and then the second part is me on the AT. So I'm not really a lonely kind of person. I spend most of my time on my own, and I'm very comfortable with it. So when I hike at home, I'm pretty well always on my own, with the exception of a spell in the 90s when I had some regular hill walking buddies, who are still friends, I'm happy to say. But outside of that, I've always kind of walked alone, and I really enjoy it. So in terms of the AT, so while you're walking along, sorry, I'm going up an uphill bit here, pardon the breathlessness. So at all times there's probably, 5 or 6 trail friends that you tend to see in the mornings, see at shelters, see at hostels or in towns. And that's constantly that group of friends is constantly kind of shrinking and swelling and what have you. Some you'll see again, some you won't. But generally I don't walk with anyone. I suppose it's 50-50. You will see people walking in groups, small groups, and then you'll see, probably half of the hikers effectively walking alone. And it's each to their own. I like walking alone. I don't like feeling the pressure of keeping up with someone or applying the pressure to them of keeping up with me. So it's nice to sort of, as they say, HYOH, hike your own hike, do your own thing. So in that regard, I don't really feel lonely on the AT. I miss my family. I miss Emily and Rebecca and Rachel, and my stupid dog Charlie, and my brilliant cat Tilly. So yeah, but loneliness, good point, but it's not really an issue, but well noticed. Good question. Hopefully that answers well enough for you. The next question is from someone who is actually from my area at home, but I don't know you, sorry. I'm delighted that people in my area are getting to hear about this and are contributing questions and comments. But the question was about horses. So this lady, sorry I've forgotten your name, I'll try and get it later on, but I'm going to tell a little contradictory tale at the end of this answer. But I think the little signs that you've seen in the shelters and in various places are basically saying that you cannot take a horse on the AT. At various access points on the roads, car parks, etc. What you'll see is foot travel welcome. So the AT is for hikers and hikers only. So there's no ATVs, four-wheel drives, mountain bikes, scramblers, horses, nothing like that. Dogs are welcome, humans are welcome, but everything is on foot, no horses. So sorry about that. It wouldn't really work with a lot of the things you've got to get over and climb over and all that kind of stuff anyway. So, but obviously there's probably other trails that are horse friendly. So the contradictory tale to that, if I remember rightly, it was it when I was exiting the Smokies or just after the Smokies? It was on my way down to a place called Log Cabin Road, and I was coming down a narrow trail. It was one of these trails where you were sort of traversing a very steep slope and you're walking along like almost like a shelf on the side of this slope, and lo and behold there's this crazy character coming up towards me on a horse. So it was one of those moments afterwards I went, damn, why did I not take my video out? Because it would have been very funny and interesting to capture it on video. But he was a really wild looking character, a real angry head on him. He was actually okay. I was talking to him for a couple of minutes, and he sort of spoke, he kind of spoke like that. He said, I've lost my dog. My dog's name is Mika. Did you see my dog? And obviously I hadn't seen his dog. The dog had got out, and obviously it was bear country. He was a bit worried about his dog because bears single out dogs and unfortunately eat them. They actually attack them and eat them. So yeah, he was, I stepped off the trail so he could get by, and he asked me to break off a little branch off a tree. He wanted to use it to sort of, you know, agitate the horse. You know, you kind of dangle it in front of the horse to make it move, and off he went. But he was quite a funny character. He was dressed in like almost like tailored animal skins. Very, very bizarre looking guy. But yeah, unfortunately I didn't think of photographing him or whatever. However, what I've heard was my one of my trail buddies, who is now ahead of me, which I hope I'll catch up with, Rabid Raccoon, he did take a photograph. So I'll try and get a copy of that from him and include it in a video later on. So yeah, there you go. So no horse travel. I don't think if I see one of those signs again, I'll put my camera a little closer to it, and I think you'll find that it's a no horses allowed rather than a, you know, please come ride your horse here kind of thing. So there you go. But thanks for the question, and hopefully I hear more from people in my area. Okay, signing out. Talk to you later. Bye. Dumpty dumpty dibbity bumpty bumpty butt. Just coming into civilization again. This is Damascus, Virginia. Looks kind of nice. Very nice. This is the second town that the trail goes literally straight through. And I guess, judging by that blaze, we go that way.